Born as Isidore Seufer on December 4, 1910, in Chester, Pennsylvania, Alex North emerged from modest beginnings to become one of Hollywood's most daring musical minds. The son of Jewish immigrants, Jesse from Bila Tserkva and Bila from Odessa, North grew up surrounded by the echoes of old-world hardship and American aspiration. His father's trade as a blacksmith and his mother's labor in a corner grocery did not foretell a life among symphonies or silver screens. But the alchemy of dreams and grit, sewn deeply into the Seufer family's story, became the wellspring from which North drew his earliest inspirations. Even as a child, he was marked by a rare sensitivity. Music stirred something deep in him, far beyond technical interest. It spoke to his sense of struggle, exile, and the quiet grandeur of survival. At 9, he began piano lessons, and it didn't take long for the young boy to abandon the ordinary. By 14, he was slipping away to Atlantic City, ears wide open to the fiery syncopations of Paul Whiteman and Coon Sanders. These excursions ignited a lifelong fascination with American jazz, long before the term score would be attached to a motion picture. His talent propelled him into the Curtis Institute of Philadelphia and then to the Juilliard School, where from 1929 to 1932 he sharpened his technique and forged his identity as a composer. Unlike many of his peers, North did not content himself with tradition. His thirst for artistic evolution led him remarkably to the Moscow Conservatory in 1933. There, he studied under the shadow of Prokofiev, becoming the first American accepted into the Union of Soviet Composers. This bold move would remain emblematic of his life, boundary-crossing, unpredictable, and fiercely original. Upon returning to the United States, North immersed himself in education and experimentation. He composed ballets for icons like Martha Graham and Agnes de Mille, collaborated on documentaries such as Heart of Spain, and served as music director for the Latvian State Theater. His years in Mexico, spent conducting and composing with Silvestre Revueltas, added another layer to his multicultural palette. During World War II, North enlisted in the U.S. Army Special Services Division. As a captain, he worked not on battle strategies, but on restoring human dignity, developing musical programs for psychiatric patients. His compositions for 26 wartime documentaries reveal an artist deeply committed to more than just craft. He viewed music as a lifeline. His return to civilian life in the late 1940s was marked by a surge of creativity. One of his earliest triumphs was Revue for Clarinet and Orchestra, a jazz-classical hybrid commissioned by Benny Goodman and conducted by Leonard Bernstein. In a time when genre boundaries were tightly policed, North walked through them like open doors. That concert, blending New York Philharmonic precision with the swing of Goodman clarinet, was less a performance than a manifesto. North's breakthrough in popular music came with Broadway's Death of a Salesman in 1949. Working alongside Elia Kazan, who would become one of his most trusted collaborators, North crafted a score that elevated stage drama into something near epic. The project became a passport to Hollywood, though not without cost. Moving west meant adapting from the intimacy of theater to the orchestral sweep of film. It meant trading 8-piece ensembles for 40-piece monsters. He almost didn't make it. The transition was jarring, the culture strange, and his style a mismatch for the old studio heads. But Warner Brothers music director Ray Heindorf saw in North what others didn't: a new direction. With encouragement from Heindorf and support from composer Hugo Friedhofer, North endured. And then he changed everything. In 1951, he scored a streetcar named Desire. It was a radical departure from the lush romanticism of Hollywood's golden era. North used jazz, raw, unresolved, urgent, to mirror the turmoil of Tennessee Williams' characters. His score didn't merely accompany the film, it entered its bloodstream. In 2016, this groundbreaking work was preserved in the National Recording Registry, a nod to its cultural and artistic relevance. From that point on, North's career unfolded like a series of sonic challenges. In Viva Zapata, 1952, he wove Mexican folk rhythms into a modernist tapestry. For Unchained, 1955, he wrote a melody so haunting that it refused to stay within cinematic boundaries. Unchained melody would become one of the most recorded songs of the 20th century, with renditions that spanned genres and generations. His work on Spartacus, 1960, especially the aching love theme, further cemented his place as a composer whose music could elevate spectacle into emotion. Despite his successes, North never fully blended into the Hollywood machine. He was wary of projects that glorified violence or sensationalism. He declined films that conflicted with his values, choosing instead to work on stories that reflected human complexity and moral tension. His collaborations with Mike Nichols on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 1966, and John Huston on Under the Volcano, 1984, were marked by minimalism and emotional precision, hallmarks of a composer more interested in inner lives than grandiosity. His approach to film music was rooted in character and psychology. While others wrote music to fill silence, North wrote to speak where words failed. This was especially evident in his controversial score for 2001, A Space Odyssey. Commissioned by Stanley Kubrick, the sprawling composition was ultimately replaced with classical tracks. North was devastated. He had poured his soul into the project, only to see it cast aside. Yet, even this rejection carried echoes of triumph. Jerry Goldsmith later recorded the score, and in 2007, North's original tracks were released to the public, finally giving the world a chance to hear what Kubrick chose to silence. His compositions spanned genres and mediums: film, stage, television, classical. He wrote symphonies, cantatas, chamber music, and ballets. His Morning Star offered a haunting reflection on the Nuremberg trials, while his collaboration with Langston Hughes on Negro Mother addressed racial injustice through music. North's work was never just beautiful, it was brave. Away from the spotlight, North lived a life of quiet intensity. A lover of antiques and zoological studies, he was multilingual, curious, and deeply private. His personal life, though not without complexity, was anchored in meaningful relationships. After an earlier marriage that gave him 2 children, Stephen, a film producer, and Elissa, a guitarist and songwriter in Scotland, he met Anne-Marie Holger in Germany in 1967. They later married and had a son, Dylan. North cherished his family and often described his work on Spartacus as an ode to love, justice, and resilience, themes that reflected his own convictions. Though he shunned fame, his professional circle was filled with great minds. He moved easily between Picasso's studio and Tennessee Williams' writing room, always observing, always listening. He had little patience for superficiality and no interest in accolades for their own sake. What he wanted, what he demanded, was authenticity, both in life and in music. In the 1980s, time began to catch up with Alex North. Illness entered his life with cruel persistence. Arthritis stiffened his once nimble hands, cancer gnawed at his vitality, and a car accident, in 1983, added to his physical burdens. Yet he continued to compose, to think, to imagine. Even in pain, he never relinquished the part of him that listened for melody in chaos. He died on September 8, 1991, in Pacific Palisades, California, from pancreatic cancer. In a poetic gesture befitting a man who gave everything to his art, his ashes were scattered at sea. There would be no grand mausoleum, no engraved marble, only the ocean and the silence that follows the final note. His passing marked the end of an era, yet the music remained. His score for A Streetcar Named Desire ranks among the greatest ever composed for film, according to the American Film Institute. The haunting strains of Unchained Melody continue to echo across time. In 1986, the Academy finally acknowledged what voters had overlooked 15 times. North was awarded an honorary Oscar for lifetime achievement. It was a gesture of recognition, but also of apology. To study Alex North's life is to confront the evolution of modern music in film and beyond. He did not chase popular tastes. He bent them, reshaped them, challenged them to follow. For aspiring composers, his work offers a kind of roadmap, not in form, but in philosophy. He taught that music must emerge from truth, not formula. That complexity can carry emotion. That silence can be more musical than sound. Though many of his compositions are now staples of film school syllabi, their vitality remains undimmed. They continue to pulse with life, urgency, and honesty. Young composers still speak his name with reverence, tracing his harmonies, dissecting his orchestrations, and marveling at how a man could give so much depth to moving pictures. Perhaps what made North so extraordinary was not merely his technique, but his refusal to conform. He risked failure to remain original. In a world obsessed with repetition, he chased the unknown. And in doing so, he carved a space for music that dared to speak of pain, longing, and the fierce beauty of the human condition. Alex North didn't just write scores, he illuminated stories. And in those stories, generations continue to find fragments of themselves.